Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us this evening. My name is not Fred Martino. I am Oscar Cantu, the Catholic Bishop of Las Cruces, and I'm delighted to be with you this evening. I welcome those who are joining us through Facebook Live and those who may be watching us in tape delay next week. We have a wonderful opportunity this evening. We have a panel of dreamers, and you've all heard about the dreamers. And this is going to be an opportunity tonight to listen to their stories. We're excited about it. And let me just give an introduction as to why we're doing this today and what the context is. Pope Francis, all of you know who Pope Francis is, has invited us to participate in a campaign that he wants to begin today called Share the Journey. And this campaign is about learning about the stories of refugees and migrants throughout the world. On behalf of the Catholic bishops of the United States, I have served in a capacity the past 3 years to travel around the world to visit with refugees and migrants. There are some 65 million people around the world who have been displaced because of war, because of violence, because of poverty, because of famine, for so many reasons. And so given this tremendous humanitarian crisis and reality, Pope Francis wants us to open our hearts and our minds to the humanity of these 65 million people, that they are not just numbers, but are human beings with particular stories, particular personalities and talents to offer their communities. So the opportunity tonight is to listen to the stories of these 4 dreamers who represent some 800,000 dreamers across the country. And so we're glad to have with us Brandon, Viviana, Carlos, and Brenda. So I want to begin with helping you to tell your story to us. And we want to acknowledge that we do have a live audience with us this evening, and they'll have an opportunity to ask some questions of our panel a little later in the program. So to get us started, I want to ask our dreamers, how old were you when you were brought to the United States? And can you tell us that story? What do you know about it? What do you remember about it, if any memories? And why was it that you can gather that your parents came and brought you to the United States? Can we begin with Brandon?
I came when I was 2 years old.
Okay.
I've been living here ever since, and I haven't gone back to Mexico. My parents brought me to the United States purposely to get educated here and have a better life.
Okay. Where in Mexico was your family from?
From Juarez, Chihuahua.
Okay, so
Yes.
Right across the border.
Right across.
Yeah,
yes.
not far.
Mhm.
And you've never gone back?
No, I don't. I really don't.
Wow.
Yeah.
Even though it's 45 minutes away.
Right. I could walk over there and be there
Yeah.
the next day.
Sure. Okay. How does that feel to live so close to where you were born, and where you lived for the first 2 years of your life, and not be able to go visit?
Well, it feels like I'm almost like trapped here in the United States because there's like you can only be here.
Mm-hmm.
I can't go visit my family over there or anything like that. So it does feel a little bit like that. It feels like a whole new world on the other side because I've never met it.
Mm-hmm.
I've only met people from that world, but never been in that world.
Right. So the even the DACA permit does not permit you to.
No, it does
to
not
travel.
allow me. It just allows me to travel inside the United States, but not outside of the United
Gotcha.
States.
Okay.
Mhm.
All right. Thank you, Brandon. Viviana.
Hi everyone, my name is Viviana. I was brought into the United States along with my sister when I was 3 years old. She was barely a baby. I've never been to Mexico, where I'm from Ciudad Juarez, Chihuahua also.
Mm-hmm.
It feels very hard, even though we're 45 minutes away from the border, to not go visit your family or see your grandma. I've never seen my grandma since I was 3 years old. She hasn't seen me grow into the woman I am today, and it's very hard.
Mm-hmm. Sure. Given that we're in an age of technology, are you able to speak to her by phone or even do FaceTime or anything like that?
It breaks me tears to just video chat with her or just message her by phone or even to call her.
Sure.
It brings me to tears, and it breaks my heart that I can only talk to her
Sure. Thank you.
that way.
Thank you, Viviana. Carlos.
Hello, everybody. My name is Carlos, and I've been here even before my first birthday. As long as I remember, I've always been here. Yes, I've gone across the border, visit family and such before my visa expired, but after that, that's it. I've resided here ever since.
Mm-hmm.
My mom brought us over here, me and my 3 older siblings, just to offer us a better life, both financially and education.
Mm-hmm.
And thanks to that, I could say we're here today. But besides that, I don't remember much about my origin, where I was born in Juarez.
Right. Okay. Thank you, Carlos.
Hi everyone, I'm Brenda. And I do want to apologize because I probably will cry. I consider myself a very strong woman, but when it comes to this, I break every single time. I was born in Chihuahua, Mexico, and I came here when I was 7 years old. Same reason like my fellow dreamers here. My parents came over to try to give us a better future, which I think we've been accomplishing. One of the purposes was to get an education, and I did. I actually graduated from an MSU, so I think it was worth it coming over. But yeah, like like them, I hadn't seen my family in 15 years until a couple months ago when I got to see my grandma, but at her funeral, so I don't think that counts.
Thank you. And that's okay if you shed a few tears because this is understandably, this is about your life. And this is a troubling situation that the dreamers are in, that you've been given promises and now you're sort of waiting and your life lies in a balance. And so that's certainly, understandably, a very difficult situation. And so that's why we want to humanize this reality and to listen to your stories. Speaking of your stories, and as several of you said, the desire was to come and to have an education. And some of you have finished, others are still pursuing your education. Can you tell us what did you study, what are you studying, and what do you dream for your own future? Whoever would like to start.
Well, I probably should start since I'm the youngest here. I started college when I was 17 years old, right after I graduated from high school. I'm studying to be an architect, and I am really dedicated to my degree. I study every day and I work, well, I study all night and I work all day. I have learned a lot of new experiences while I've been in college. I have learned to be more responsible. I have learned how to be a little bit more of an American now that I actually have all these benefits and privileges that I've been given. And one day I hope that I can become an architect here in the United States. That would be a dream come true. I hope that I can provide for my family just like any normal being could do. And I hope that I can give back to my mother everything that she sacrificed for me.
Sure. Now, you mentioned receiving benefits and privileges. What do you mean by benefits and privileges?
Well, before I had my permit, I wasn't allowed to cross a checkpoint or travel into like another state here in the United States. I see that as a privilege now because I am allowed to do that. Benefits, I can get a little bit more help, like getting scholarships, some state scholarships or private scholarships.
Sure.
There's a little bit more benefits of getting a job now under the government and being legal here.
Okay.
So those are some benefits we can get now.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for clarifying that.
I started college when I was 18 years old, right after graduating from Las Cruces High School. I want to major in nursing. Actually, one class away from going into the nursing program. So I'm really proud of that. And I also work to pay for my school, to pay for my books. Right now, even though working is a privilege here, they don't give us much benefits when working. We still pay our taxes. They still take away federal taxes, Medicaid, and everything, but we don't get nothing of that money. It doesn't go into our what's it called? Retirement. We can only get taxes back even if we made enough. If not, we have to pay them back.
Sure. So you are contributing and paying into the system.
Yes, we are.
Right. Okay. It sounds like you're not getting a free ride here. You're both working. You said you work all day and study all night. When do you sleep?
Sometimes.
I hope it's not during class.
No,
Okay.
class is very important.
Sure. Yes. Right. Carlos.
I graduated in May from Alta Vista Early College, which was a high school that allowed me to get my associates when I graduated high school. Just like the people sitting next to me, I saw that I was limited, so I decided to pursue that. I wanted to get ahead as much as possible. I wanted to have control over my own life, so I decided to go for that. Right now, I just started my engineering program, so I'm new to that, and I know we're very ambitious, so we'll get it. But my dream is to just live here, keep living here, and wake up in the mornings and know that I'm in control of my own life. I don't want to be in the hands of somebody else, because right now I feel regardless of how much effort I put into school, my work, my volunteering, I know that at the end of the day, it could just be snatched away from me. I just want to live here in peace, just like any of you watching this, and I just want that opportunity.
Sure. Thank you, Carlos.
I started college during my senior year in high school. So when I graduated, I had, I think, 13 college credits, or a little bit more. I was a semester ahead in college.
Sure.
So I also did that, like Carlos said, to take advantage of the opportunity, because whenever I started college, I didn't have DACA yet, so that meant I didn't have a Social Security. which you need to apply for a lot of scholarships.
Mm.
And the reason I say that is because I graduated from high school top 10% of my class. I was number 8 out of 300 and some students, and I wasn't granted any scholarships, whereas everybody else had like their whole career paid for. So that really broke my heart, but I was like happy because I had promised my mom that, because prior to that, my dad was deported. So my mom wanted to go back to Mexico when I was a sophomore in high school. And I asked her to please stay. And I promised her that it would be worth it. I told her, give us a chance to, because I've never thought of my life without school. Like, even though I knew I didn't have a social, like, I knew I was gonna go to school somehow. So that's why I put a lot of effort in. I was able to graduate with honors from high school. So then I went to NMSU. Thank God he put an angel in my pathway that from NMSU too. She's a professor here, and she helped me get a scholarship that paid for my 3.5 years at NMSU. So I was very happy because of that, and my mom was like super proud. But what made her more proud was that I was able to graduate from NMSU with honors as well. So yeah, like, I don't know, one of you guys said, like, we're very ambitious because our opportunities are limited, so we take advantage of the ones that are given to us. Mm-hmm. My hopes are, I already have a job, thank God, but I don't feel stable because of the same reason, because I don't have control of the situation. And this is probably one of the first times that I don't have that control, and it's very frustrating to me. Mm-hmm. Because just like Carlos said, I always have control of how much effort I want to put into something I want to accomplish, and I know that it depends on me to get to that point. But today, there's really nothing I can do, and exactly like he said, other people have that power to control our lives. So that's one of the things that I would hope for, is to be able to go to work knowing that 6 months later I'm still going to be there.
Sure. I don't know what all the status is of your families, or you mentioned your father had been deported, but so many immigrant families have mixed status. And one of the things that I believe that about society, about a strong society, is that we need strong families and united families. Some of you have already talked about your parents and your families. Can you share with us, what do your parents and your family mean to you?
If I may.
Sure.
For me, my mom, both my parents were supportive, although my dad didn't really grow up with me. Mm-hmm. But my mom was always there. Mm-hmm. She always fought. She set that example. She set the basis, for a good life. And regardless of her not being a citizen as well, I always saw the fight in her. Regardless of anything, she always fought on, and she gave us what we needed. And I feel that as a kid, as a dreamer, that's what we need. We need a great support from our families. And some of my brothers, they have their citizenship now. So them seeing me struggle, because I'm currently the only one in this situation, they see me struggle, so they fight on for me.
Sure.
And although it's been hard for us, for example, I saw my dad for the first time in 8 years this past summer. That was something really hard for us, because it's not the same talking through a phone, through a camera. There's not that connection. Mm-hmm. And like I said, I'm the only one from my siblings that had to go through that. So a strong family, it's the fundamental for all this, and most of us have it, but it's just hard sometimes.
Sure.
And you should understand, you watching, that we strive for a family. We don't want to be taken apart. We want to
Absolutely.
be together.
Seems like there are so many pressures on family, just in life in general, in society. And I can't imagine the pressures that are added to the regular pressures on a family, that of legal status. Thank you, Carlos.
To me, my family means everything. I have 4 younger brothers that mean the world to me, and to set that example of going to school, pursuing my dream is the best thing I can give them. My mom's undocumented, and it would break my heart that my family would be separated by this administration that is doing the worst to us. I don't see myself going back to Mexico. I can't see myself walking on the streets of Mexico. I love this country, and I love this state that I call my home. This is our home. This is where I grew up. This is where I have my family. A couple years ago, my dad got into a really bad car accident. In that accident, I lost my grandma, and my dad was the only provider for our home. He was the only one who could work and provide for our family. So it was really hard because he couldn't work after that. He went several years to physical therapy because he couldn't walk. He was in a wheelchair for several years, and during that time I got my DACA, and I was super honored that I could help my family out. And I got to work. I helped my mom, because during those times most of the time we didn't have anything to eat, so my mom would go to dispensaries, and that's where she would get food for us, and it was really hard. But when I got my DACA, I was able to help out my family, give them a better, stable economic place, and going back to my family. We've been through a lot, but it would be devastating to see ourselves apart.
Sure. Thank you, Viviana.
To me, my family also means a lot. I have a little brother and a little sister who I try my very hardest to set a good example to. But my mom, there's just no words in me that can describe how I feel about that woman. She is the most amazing person I know. I feel very blessed to have her, because thanks to her, I am who I am now. And thanks to the decisions that she made in her life, thinking about us, is what brought me to be who I am today. Excuse me. So yeah, the thought of being separated and being away from her is I just can't imagine like me being without her, because I just can't.
If I remember correctly, Carlos, when you and I spoke earlier, you mentioned that you are a volunteer fireman.
Yes, sir.
Can you tell us about that and what inspired you to volunteer?
Well, since small, we all, like I told you as well, we all dream of being cops, nurses, astronauts, And to me, one of those things was being a fireman. So for the longest time, I stayed in the shadows. I've always wanted to give back to the place that gave me so much, you know, our home. So as soon as DACA came around, I didn't jump on it, but when I did get it, it opened that door for me. It allowed me to go ahead and volunteer in the department. So that's what I've been doing for almost 6-7 months now, and it feels great. If I have that small control of my life, and it allows me to give back to that community that I love so much, and that has given me so much opportunity. And just as an example, we're not criminals, you know. We give back, some more than others, or you know, but we all want the best for our community. And at the end of the night, we're all gonna want our home to grow and to be better as a whole. We don't separate each other just because we're born somewhere else. Doesn't mean we're not gonna give back. As a matter of fact, we're gonna give more because we struggle to get so much, and we're gonna give so much more.
Sure. Thank you, Carlos. Just listening to your stories, I'm reminded how it's in adversity that character is built. So I'm just amazed at the potential that's sitting here, and the character that we can already see in very young adults. As I mentioned earlier, we do have a live audience, and so I don't want to ignore them, and they probably have some questions for you as well. So at this time, I would invite any of our audience members who may have a question specifically for our panel. So we're not dealing necessarily with legal issues, or we don't have legal expertise here to talk about the policies, but about their lives and their experiences. So we welcome any of the audience members who may have questions for our panel.
Hi, my name is Roberto, and thank you so much for being up here. I know it takes a lot, but thank you. My question is what advice would you give to other students that are now that are not in college right now, that are undocumented? There's about 65,000 students a year that are not graduating from high school. What advice would you give to them to persevere just like you have? And my second quick question is, what advice would you give to schools, to teachers, to principals, et cetera, in supporting those that may be that are undocumented?
My advice would be that most people that are in these circumstances are ashamed to bring that part of themselves out into the world. So my advice to the school would be to make them feel comfortable to actually express themselves and inform people about their situation. But to the students is that they should look for help, you know, speaking out, because that's how I was able to pursue my own dreams. I was ashamed, but that didn't stop me. I still went out and looked for help, and I found it, thankfully. And I know that there's much more help out there for everybody, so do not be ashamed to look for it.
My advice to students would be to get informed, because I know I was in the same situation where even family members, from like second family members, would tell me that I wasn't going to be able to go to college because I didn't have a social security, and I believed it because I was not informed. But that didn't stop me, and I mean, I graduated. So if that's the issue, then get informed and know that there is opportunity, and take advantage of the littlest opportunity that is given to you, and to the schools to encourage students to support each other, to not set those boundaries, more like to get rid of those boundaries rather than support each other, and allow dreamers like us to not feel, I wouldn't say ashamed, but to not feel that fear
Good evening. Thank you for being here. My name is Lonnie, and my question for each of you is, you came here with parents who didn't have documents, so they weren't able to work. So to what extent did each of you experience poverty?
For me, like I said earlier, we had to go to food dispensaries to get help from them. I also started working at the onion shed when I was 15. I worked there for 3 years. It wasn't easy, but we had to get money somewhere. We had to survive.
Just like Viviana, we never experienced luxuries that many people have today. One of these problems that we had growing up was basically just me and my mom and my little brother. And growing up, I always saw my mom like working. She had 2 jobs, so I remember just basically growing without a mom. I would only see her twice, maybe once a week, because she was working, and she was killing herself. And that's something that, as far as poverty, that's something that it causes, it breaks families apart because we're desperate. We want to survive. We're just fighting to survive.
To me, I know what it's like to be without electricity. I know what it's like to be without water. I know what it's like to be without food. And I also know what it's like to see your mom try her very hardest to put a smile on your face. I remember one time my little brother, we didn't have food, and my little brother was hungry. And she said, she shared this story later on with me. She was like, well, drink a glass of water. She was like, I told him that hoping that his hunger would go away. So to me, but those experiences have, just like Bishop said, have helped me be who I am right now. Because right now I appreciate everything that I have, every single opportunity that I'm given. I appreciate and I thank God for giving me the life that I've had, or the struggles that I've been through.
Thank you.
My name is Aubrey. You guys have been through a lot of bad stuff. You've had your ups and downs. My question is, was it all worth it?
Oh yeah, it was really worth it, honestly. I mean, you guys see our characters, and our characters wouldn't be this way if it wasn't for our lives. All the struggles that we've been through pretty much have shaped our fierceness. We try to accomplish all our goals, and we wouldn't know how hard it would have been to accomplish them if we wouldn't have gone through them. I was told that it was super hard to be an architect, and I didn't know what hard meant until I started actually being an architect. So it is very worth it. Despite the fact that we've been through so much, I wouldn't take it away. I mean, it built me who I am.
Regardless of what we've gone through, we'll never back down from a challenge. So it made us stronger, and we love it. We couldn't change anything of it because it made us who we are. So yes, every single second was worth it, even the bad stuff. We learned from it and we grew from it.
To me, to every adversity that I went through was definitely worth it, and I would never have it any other way. Even if I was given the choice to have a life without struggles or the life that I've been through, I would 1,000 times choose the life that I've been through, because it's taught me to be the person who I am today. It's taught me to not be scared of anything. And to this day, if you tell me that I am not able to do something, I'm gonna show you how it's done.
And it is worth it. Even working 3 years at an onion shed, it got me to where I am today, and I would do it all over again.
It's interesting how you talk about how in spite of the tremendous adversity that you've been through and still are going through, that it's all worth it as you work through, and even each of you has a beautiful smile that you can share even in the midst of difficulty. There was and is a generation that is sometimes referred to as the greatest generation, and a generation great because they went through tremendous adversity, through the Great Depression, through the Second World War, through terrible hardships, and coming back to the States and rebuilding their lives. And so listening to your stories, I'm just wondering if we don't have the seeds of another great generation.
Hello, my name is John, and I have to tell you, you've shared some wonderful, unique experiences that we know they're out there, but to hear them firsthand is wonderful. You came here at different ages, and I'm wondering, what were some of the strange things you had trouble possibly understanding or maybe coping with? I mean, there must be some strange things that American society does. Could you give us some examples and what those were and how you dealt with it?
I remember once I was in elementary, and I was in 4th grade, and in elementary they do a lot of field trips as a class. And well, for me that was the first time I ever was informed, or I kind of experienced what it felt like to be an undocumented person, because that field trip was supposed to go outside of the checkpoint, and since I didn't have any permit or any documents to allow me to pass that checkpoint, then I wasn't allowed to go to that field trip because of that. And it felt weird, you know. My other students didn't understand why I didn't go. I honestly made the excuse of getting into trouble so that I wouldn't go. I just didn't want people to know the actual truth, but I did it because, you know, I couldn't go, and I didn't want them to know either why.
To me, first of all, was the language. My first language is Spanish, and you can tell I know I have an accent, but I don't care. So I remember sitting in class. I came in when I was in 3rd grade, and I would literally look at the watch most of the time because I remember I had half day in Spanish and half day English. So I was just looking at the time. I was like, I want to go back to the Spanish class already. And I remember, like, my friends, God bless them, they're always going to be in my heart because they didn't speak Spanish. I didn't speak English. I don't know how we were friends, but we managed to communicate. So that was one of the hardest things to me, was to learn the language. It was very frustrating and very difficult. But yeah, I think that's one of the things.
Go ahead.
Well, to me, I didn't see a lot of differences between me and like an American person, because I was brought here at a very young age, so I picked up English really fast, and like my mom never told me that I was undocumented, and like so I never really talked about it during school or like to my friends. I just felt like one of them. I felt like I belonged until this Trump administration came along, and to college is when I experienced that it was, you know, I didn't have a lot of privilege, and that I was that other person, and that I was going to be, how do you say señalar? Pointed at? That I was, you know, like kind of like an outcast, that I would be that person, and that's how I feel right now.
Going back to your question, it's funny because just like you said, I was here before my first birthday, you know, so I grew up with the American culture, you know, I grew up a citizen at heart, you know, so there was never something that you could pinpoint that I stood out for, besides the language being, or Spanish being my first language. That was it. I got over it. Now I'm fluent, but besides that, just like anybody else.
Hi, my name is Brooke. God bless you guys for being here today. My question is, why do you guys think it's important to share your stories?
It's important for people to know that they're not alone, because many of us we stood in the shadows for so long, and we hid ourselves away from, for being ashamed of who we are, and we gotta learn, we gotta stand up to it and embrace who we are, because like we said, it's worth it, and people gotta know that we're out here fighting for them, and they gotta do the same for ourselves. So it is important.
To me, it's important just because I want people to know that we're real people, that these decisions do impact us in so many ways. I want people to know that we're not bad people. I want people to listen to our side of the story rather than what society has out there for us. I'm getting tired of hearing that we're criminals, that we're raped, that we're this, we're that. No, give us a chance to show you who we really are, because I personally know these people here and other dreamers as well, and I don't see a reason why they and I can't be here. I just don't see a reason to be called the names that we're called.
To me, it is important because we are threatened. Well, we were threatened that DACA was gonna be taken away, and now it is. So it's very important to share a story so we can get a clean Dream Act, so that they don't, so that the administration doesn't militarize our borders. We don't want no more ICE, no border patrol, no boots, no walls, no beds. We need to share our stories because we need to be heard. We're very important people here. We're contributing to this country, and we deserve a protection.
I personally think that it's important because it's our fight to fight it. It's our job to do this. It's basically something that if we don't do it, then it seems like there's no fight anymore, because there's just one source pushing on, and the other side of this dilemma is not pushing again. So if there's only one side pushing, then it's not really a fight, it's just bullying.
My name is Shaylin Peralt, and my question to you is, what does your American dream mean to you, and where do you see yourself in 20 years?
That's a really hard question. I mean, our futures are really at stake right now, so we don't really know where we're gonna be at.
In 6 months.
Yeah, I don't know what I'm gonna do tomorrow.
Where would you like to be?
Oh, where I'd like to be?
Where?
Right here in the United States.
If it were up to you, and what would you be doing in 20 years? If Congress passes the DREAM Act and the president signs it, where do you see yourselves in 20 years?
I see myself with my family, to be honest. That's all I've dreamed of, growing, basically raising my little brother. And without my parents, that's basically what I dream of, just a united family. I want to have kids of my own, make a family. And I think that's what it comes down to, all of us, being stable and having a nice, big family. That's my American dream.
Will you be a firefighter?
Yes, always, at heart.
I want to see myself working at a hospital, maybe a clinic, helping others.
So you're in nursing. So do you see yourself working with adults or with children?
No,
or?
I see myself working for children. I have 4 younger brothers that I treat like mine, and they're everything to me, and that's why I want to be working with children.
That's a very exciting question, actually, because it's based on the idea that the DREAM Act would actually pass, so that's super exciting. So I would see, if that was the case, I see myself already in the process of buying, if not owning, my own house already, helping my sister and brother get through their college as well, give a stable life to my mom, have her stop working, and yeah, that would be my American dream, to work for my family.
Hi, my name is Lupita, and you've all been through a lot, and I want to know what helped you at that moment to keep going and never give up.
I would say the struggles. I didn't want to see myself in that situation all my life, so I had to do something about it.
I've always wanted to prove people wrong. I used to be a little troublemaker, for attention, because I liked it growing up. But everybody always told me, you're not going to do anything, you're probably going to be a gangster out there somewhere. And I always got it out to myself that I had to be better, not only for everybody else, but for myself. And I always saw my mom fighting, and working and doing so much for us, and I never wanted her work to be in vain, so I had to work on that. I had to put my own share into it.
For me, it's my mom. I wish the answer was to do it for myself, but everything I do is to make her proud, because I feel like I owe a lot to her. So for me, what kept me going was the idea of making my mom proud. And whenever I did give up, she was there. She was the one there telling me, échale ganas, like, keep going. Like, so to me, it's my mom.
I think there's a lot of reasons why I kept going, but one of the main reasons that I kept going was because I have been shown this way of expressing myself and fighting for what is right. And I know that there's a lot of dreamers that don't know how to do that, or are ashamed of doing it, or are afraid of doing it, or just don't know how to do it in general. So I feel like it's my duty to actually do it for them, because I'm not just fighting for me or for my mother, I'm fighting for every dreamer and everybody that's actually trying their hardest to stay here.
Good evening, my name is America, and my question is, how has these 3 weeks been for you since they took DACA away?
Super hard, honestly.
Yeah, whenever they announced, I had to go to work because they were going to announce it on September 5th, right? So I think it was a Tuesday, if I remember correctly. So I had to go to work, and I told my sister, like, keep me updated, what's going to happen. So she calls me, and she's like, ya quitaron DACA. Like, they just canceled DACA. In that moment, I'm not kidding, like, my life just, it seemed like if somebody had pushed up a stop button. I was on the phone, like, I was in shock for a few seconds. And then I told her, okay, all right. I was like, just keep listening to the news to see what they say. But after that, I've been trying to stay calm, because I want my mom to be calm, my brother and sister to be okay. So I try to be calm, but it's very frustrating not to know what's going to happen, especially when you're so used to having control of the situation, of having control of what you're going to do, how you're going to do it. This is very, very frustrating. And
I remember being in class and just receiving that text message, my sister, that it had been taken away. And I gotta be honest, for the first week, I just felt like giving up. It's a horrible feeling knowing that that you feel like everything that you're doing so far, being a firefighter, going to school, working, that it's all for nothing. It makes you feel small, tiny. It took our purpose away, and without a purpose, we feel empty.
The moment I heard the news, I was at my house. I was with my mom, and she was kind of like, "Oh my God, mija, ya te quitaron DACA, ¿qué vamos a hacer? And it was like, it was super shocking, and it was super shocking. I just couldn't take the news. I tried to stay calm, but then I kind of like reacted, and I knew at that moment I couldn't stay quiet. I had to do something. And sharing my story is a process to getting something we need, Dream Act. So I'm not gonna stay quiet. I'm gonna share my story. My story needs to be heard, not just by you, but the president. Honestly, he needs to know that we're not bad people. We're just here to have a better future. We're here to pursue our careers, set a better example for our siblings. I can't stay quiet. At that moment, I just knew that I had to do something about it.
Hi, my name is Amanda, and my question for you is, what can I do as somebody who is part of your community, and what can we do as your community to support you?
Well,
I'm not a dreamer, but let me be the first to respond. Contact Congress, your representative, your senators, because they are the ones, the responsibility is now on their shoulders. And I want them to look at these young dreamers in the eye and say, I hear your story, and I'm going to respond responsibly. And so encourage them to pass the DREAM Act.
One thing that I think would be very helpful, I think this is because I've been working with organizations that are supposed to help the community and like do movements and stuff like that. So there's a lot of events going on about dreamers and, you know, doing the right thing. And it's really hard to get people to show up to these events. Sometimes they don't know what's going on or anything like that, but it honestly helps a lot to see more bodies, because imagine the entire world actually being in one movement. I mean, everybody together is the change, and if everybody's working together, then the change has happened. So just by being there would help a lot.
And I would also say, inform your other people that attack people like us, because they don't know. Just inform them, like tell them, or just talk to them and be like, why do you think like this? Why, like, give them a chance to listen to their stories.
Yeah, and don't believe the narrative that is set on us, like that we're stealing jobs, that we're here, that we're criminals, that we're not doing anything here, that we're not doing anything productive here. We're actually we're looking for a better future.
Just fight for us. Just understand that, you know, we were raised next to you. We're your neighbor. We're your friend. So just don't be quiet. If you see something going on, fight for us, and understand that it'll go way further than just that. And just remember, we pledged allegiance next to you at elementary, in 4th grade, 3rd grade. So we just want your support.
Growing up itself is very hard, and I can't imagine being undocumented and having to go through things like that, especially how people voice themselves and like to give their opinions. Discrimination is out there. It's at our schools, in the public, at our work. I want to know how you have been discriminated and how you've used that energy.
To this day, well, just recently, but prior to that, I had never been discriminated. Like we've said, we like to hide ourselves from what we really are, you know, from who we really are. So that's the reason we hid ourselves so long, because we try to evade that situation as much as possible. we never went out in public, and till now, we're undocumented because of that same fear. And now that some of us are sharing our stories, yes, we've gotten hateful comments and such, but it's just, we're doing something right. Haters. That's about it.
Thank you. We have just a little over a minute left, and just want to share some information with our viewers that in our studio audience, that Catholic Charities of Southern New Mexico has legal services, and as a matter of fact, the director is here with us in the audience, and is raising funds to help the DACA, the Dreamers, to have the funds for the legal services so that you can receive those scholarships. So that resource is available to you, and as well as several of you are familiar with New Mexico Cafe, that has been doing a lot of work with the Dreamers. So so those are a couple of wonderful resources in our community. So I encourage you to, especially those listening at home, to if you need legal services, to call upon New Mexico Cafe, as well as Catholic Charities. To close, I want to share a quotation from the bishops of the United States, and it was right after the decision on DACA a few weeks ago that we published this statement. And it says, "In this moment of moral decision, we look to Pope Francis, who in his address to Congress stated, 'We need to avoid a common temptation nowadays to discard whatever proves troublesome. Let us remember the golden rule, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. To this end, we believe that deporting exemplary young people who were brought here as children and who know only the United States as their home, or failing to do all we can to help refugees and their families, who are often driven to exile by war and extreme exploitation, is not in our interest as a moral and generous people. Our country has the right and responsibility to regulate its borders. What we ask is that it be done humanely.'" I want to thank our wonderful articulate panel who have bravely shared your stories with us. We are richer for it. Thank you all.